Hello and welcome to WMG's Apprenticeship Talks. Today we have a former student who's going to talk about her apprenticeship journey. Thanks for joining today, Anaya.
Oh, it's all right. Great to be here. Thank you for asking me.
So can you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us when you were at WMG, what you did here?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Anaya O'Brien. I left WMG, I think March 2020, which was weird saying that because I feel like last year. And I studied business, economics and physics.
And what are you doing now? What company do you work for?
I'm a commercial degree apprentice at a company called Greencore, who are a convenience food manufacturer and supplier for all the major retailers in the UK. And my role currently is a category executive. And so what we work with is looking at shoppers' wants and needs. So we collect consumer research and market data and build recommendations from that for our customer, which for us at our site is Marks and Spencer. It's really fun. It's really interesting. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Now, we were just talking before about Greencore, that actually it's not a brand I've heard of very much before. So tell me a little bit more about where it's located and what sort of things it does.
Yeah, so Greencore is a hidden brand. That's why not many people know about it. So when you go into when you get a meal deal from, your Marks and Spencer's, Aldi, Lidl, Sainsbury's, that comes from us. We make the sandwiches, the sushi, the salads. We're based in the UK, but we have sites all around the UK. So, for instance, I'm based at Northampton, but then my assessment centre was Manton Wood, I do believe. So it's a really, really big business, but people say it's the biggest business that no one's ever heard of, which is really funny. So, yeah.
And is there an engineering slant to this? Because this sounds like more food processing. What engineering things do they do there?
Well, we have operations and technical, which I'm probably not all that equipped to talk about in detail because it's not my role. But these are the guys that work on the shop floor in the factory, which is an amazing process. If you ever get to see it, like in our sites, you can walk along and you have the windows, you can look down and you see all these massive machines moving and stuff. But the ops tech guys in our cohort, they work on like team leaders, so kind of managing the shop floor and stuff. So yeah, definitely if you guys are interested in engineering those type jobs, I'd definitely have a look at that because it is a really, really cool process to be involved in.
And yours is a degree apprenticeship, is that right?
Yes.
And so what degree are you studying for now and at what university?
I'm doing a chartered management degree and we're doing that at Nottingham Trent University. And then in that, the chartered is the CMDA. So that's like a separate qualification that we do on the side for 4 years.
And what's it like juggling a full-time job and doing your degree at the same time? Tell us the reality.
Well, I've only recently just started my degree. My first block was like a couple of weeks ago. But even this early on, it is hard because you're a full-time student and, you work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And you have ongoing responsibilities with your job, your job done and when the clock ends type thing. A massive part of it is being organised and time management and having that, which not everyone, I didn't have from the get-go when starting. It's really an ongoing process of figuring out. And that's kind of when you lean on your support work and the people around you to kind of, get that advice. And speaking from the cohorts above, second years, even they ain't got it all figured out yet. So it is really hard, but it is a process. But then on that, it's rewarding, because you're kind of doing both and it's teaching you these valuable skills. When years ahead, you're going to be juggling multiple projects and multiple responsibilities at the same time. So it's kind of preparing you that for in a sense. And when you're learning stuff, like one of the best things about that I like is when you're learning from the textbook, you can immediately see that play out in real life. Like I can directly connect because I'm doing it, I'm working in it. And I find that really helpful. It helps me learn because it's not just words on a page. I can see it playing out in real life. So it is hard and prepare for that. But it's an invaluable experience. You can't replicate that anywhere else. So I definitely recommend it. It's worth the hardship, I think. Although come back to me in a couple of years when I'm a bit deeper into the degree. I'll let you know.
So you said block release that you go to university. How does that work then? So you're obviously not going to university one day a week. How does university work?
So we do it. So we'll go to uni once every month. And so most of the time it's like 2 days, but it could be like 4 days where we're just at uni. And then we'll learn and we'll get given our assignments, and then we'll go back to work. And then our company does it, because you have the 20% off the job. So our company does it that they give us one uni day a week at work where we're not at uni, but it's dedicated to our uni works to complete whatever work we've got to do outstanding. But on those days, it's really important to separate from work, although you're not actually at uni. So it's very easy to kind of have a quick look at your emails and get dragged into that. It's really important to just separate those 2 days. And that's something my cohorts above was like drilling into me, and they were like, listen, put your out of office on. Don't worry. But so you're not at uni, every week all the time. You get that on the job, and you get that off the job, like separated. So you're not hounded and all the time with all this stuff.
And now you're in an apprenticeship. Are you glad this is the route that you went down?
Oh, absolutely. But I was always kind of adamant from the start that I wanted an apprenticeship. I thought it was the kind of best route for me and the way that I kind of learn. And I think, to get that 4 years of experience and the degree at the same time, it can't really be matched. Like, I love it. I love, being in work and getting stuck in, and then learning, like being involved in those processes, but then learning about those processes and making those connections. I'm so glad this is the route that I went down. Yeah.
And so looking back on when you were applying for apprenticeship positions, how many companies do you think you applied for?
Oh, God, I applied for a lot. A lot of writing. I'd say ballpark, probably, I don't know, like 15, 20, something like that. It was a really long process, but you've got to do it. You got to just get stuck in, apply for. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Put many eggs in many different baskets. And
what were the recruitment processes like? What kind of things did you have to do?
Oh, they were also very long. Obviously, it starts with all the admin stuff, your details, why you kind of want the job. In that, don't overthink it. They're just trying to gauge, what kind of person you are and stuff. And then usually you come on to the psychometric test and the numerical tests. Again, the psychometric test can seem really daunting. But again, don't overthink them. They're just trying to gauge, your thought process, how that kind of works, whether you're right for the company and whether the company's right for you. And the numerical test, you can only do what you can do, in those instances, just try your best. And then you get on to usually a telephone interview, which is them just going to be asking you, what would you do in this situation? Or give us an example of a time that you've done this, this, and this. And in that sense, it's helpful to just have a kind of list or something in your mind of things that you've done, what skills that showed, and what was the outcome of that, because they're definitely going to ask you some conversations based around that. And then if you're successful in those kind of stages, you'll go on to the assessment centre, which can be really nerve-wracking. I know that on a couple of my assessment centres, I was so nervous. But it's important to remember that everyone there is in the same situation as you are. You're not just like an odd, like sticking out like a sore thumb. Like, everyone's feeling the same feelings. And the assessment centre is really to gauge kind of how you work in teams, gauge your kind of critical thinking skills. Can you think on your toes? What would you do in this situation? And they're not expecting you to have the right answer of what they would do in that situation because you've never worked there before. Again, it is just all about that thought process. And you probably will have a couple of interviews on the assessment centre as well. So just be prepared for that. And then usually you'll go on to your final interview, which is usually in person. And again, it's similar kind of questions and stuff to the first interviews. Why do you want this job? And what makes you suitable for the role? Just things like that. So yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout. And as you'll go through, you'll get a better sense of how it kind of works. I think the more apprenticeships I applied for, I think each time I've become more and more successful because I got a feel for how these kind of processes work. So yeah.
And do you feel your time at WMG helps you stand out from the crowd?
I think the school's ethos and the culture of the school, business like, business led, I think that prepares you for the working environment. So when you get there, you're not just like a deer in the headlights, don't know what's going on. They prepared you for that. And I think the other thing is how the school delegates responsibilities to its students. I think that's one of the biggest kind of step up, like the biggest kind of difference in that step up is, although you've got your support network and people to lean on, there's not someone leaning over your shoulder, pointing you in the right direction all the time, telling you what to do. Ultimately, you're kind of responsible for you, which I think WMG preps you for really, really well. So yeah, no, definitely.
So we have a lot of students here who are obviously looking at the apprenticeship route. Do you
Yes.
have any hints or tips that you could give them, who are looking at this moment in time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, number one, research the company. Any company you apply for, research the company, because they're always going to ask you questions like, why did you choose this company? How do the company's values resonate with you? What do we do? They ask that, and if you don't know what they do, you're kind of in trouble there. So definitely research the company, specifically their culture, their brand values, stuff like that, because that's going to be your golden thread in your answers. If you manage to kind of weave them in, it's going to show that you're interested, you've went through the effort, and you do really want to work for the company, which is going to stand out. So yeah, definitely do that. The other one, and it sounds cliche, but it's cliche because it's true, is be yourself. Because my work mentor was actually one of the guys that interviewed me in the final interview, and he said it come down between me and one guy, and the thing that tipped me over the edge was my personality, because my personality shone through, and they thought it would really fit in the company. So yeah, 100% be yourself, because it could be the difference between you getting the job and not. And just on that, if you're not yourself in the process, you want to make sure, because you're going to be at this company for a long time. 4 years is the standard kind of degree apprenticeship, and if you don't feel comfortable in being yourself, you're not going to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to get the most out of it. You're not going to fulfill your full potential. So yeah, 100% be yourself. Again, to make sure the company is right for you. Right for you. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And thank you for joining us on our apprenticeship talks.
No worries, I enjoyed it.
And hopefully we'll see you again in the future, I think.
Oh, absolutely, you will.